Hello, everybody. This is Brandon, and welcome to Fold Up Games Game Class. For those of you who are in the live class, this is a bonus. For those of you who are not actually in our live class but are enjoying this series on YouTube, welcome. I hope you learned something today. Should be a really quick thing today. I am going to demonstrate to you how to use tile sets. Let's go ahead and jump over into my application, and we're looking at a tile set right here that's already, I put it together. I've got this from a web link. I will show you this, this site here. Has some really terrific free tiles. They were already split up. I went ahead and made a tile set of it so I could break it up in GameMaker and show you. But they had some free stuff, and I thought that was nice of them. Another great link I'll show you here is this one, and I'll link that in the description here at the bottom, and this is an official Yoyo Games GameMaker explanation of tiles. Let's go ahead and jump over to GameMaker and take a look at what we're doing. We're going to start out with a tile set by making a background, and once we dig into it, I'll explain to you what a tile set is. Let's go ahead and load it. A tile set is actually a background. A background, as you can see, and there you go. Well, you wouldn't want to have that for your background. It's not very creative. But you see this little checkbox right here? It says Use as Tile Set. This is where the magic happens. It allows you to take an actual background and split it up into tiny little individual pieces, much like a sprite. And all you have to do is tell it what your separation is between each one. And I know that mine is 128 by 128. And you can say, oh, I actually started 10 pixels from the left when I got going. You can also give them some separation between each one so that they don't butt right up against each other. And there's a reason for that. Sometimes in GameMaker, when you have them butted right against each other like this, there might be some tearing between them. It might not render quite right when you start to run your game. And the article that I'll link to discusses that and why you might just smudge the edges and let them overlap a little bit. But in this case, we'll go ahead and just set them as 128 by 128. And look at that. GameMaker already knew what I was doing, and it set it all up. Bam, we've got it. Let's go to the room that I've created, and I'll go ahead and set the grid to be that 128 by 128, and we're going to go to tiles. Now, a tile, unlike an object, is a drawing object. So this can actually help in your game development. You can get some fancier stuff in there, and it can maybe run a little bit faster too. So instead of creating your game with block objects everywhere, you could create just a ugly block object and then texture it with this. Let's demonstrate that really fast. We'll go ahead and make a new sprite, and we'll just call this block, I guess is fine. Bum, 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 bum. And I'll make it a 128 since that's what we were working with. I kind of want to be able to see what I'm doing here, so I'll go ahead and just make it a line. And we'll modify that mask, make sure it's a full image rectangle, not precise, rectangle. There we go. Full rectangle. And this is how you might normally create things when you're making a game using this kind of a block. And you'd go, grab that block. Boom, boom. Let me turn that grid off so you can see what I'm doing. Boom, boom, boom. I'll fill that in semi-opaque so we can see a little better on screen. Boom, boom, boom. So you might do this sort of thing, and that doesn't look so great. Now, you could also go in there and make that block have an individual tile, and you wind up scrolling through the whole thing to select which tile you want. Which object you want. You'd have a block that would be, top block. You might have a block that's corner block. You might have another one that's narrow platform. Well, that gets a little silly at the end of the day. Using tiles allows you to go ahead and draw out your level like this and just go crazy with it and not worry that it looks good. And this is what your player is actually playing against, right? When you run the game, what we can do is have this guy be not visible. So it vanishes and they're just standing on thin air. With a tile set, we can come in here and start creating something that looks a little nicer. And I'll go ahead and slide it out of the way so it's not overlapping that block. See there? So now with a tile set, you can use it just like any object because we can click them, we can grab them and move them. And here's another neat feature about tile sets. They have layering to them. So you could add a new layer that's up higher in the stack or back behind it. So if you wanted to do multiple tile sets and say have some that are behind it, I could add one that's less than the default 100,000, I believe that is. Change it to 90. And now this would be back lower in the stack. And I could, just for jollies here, let's change the grid size to 64. That way I can go behind it. Oh, I'm sorry, I need to make that a bigger number, not a smaller number. So 12,000 would send that behind. Boom, there we go. So now I could do something layered like that. Now, another thing that I use tile sets for a lot of times is all of the interiors of a building in my adventure game I've been working on. Let's go ahead and draw a little bit more here, and we could switch over to that and take a look at that too. Now, the thing you really need to do in a tile set, and the reason it's so tedious, and you can see that I've got a lot of pieces here, they already did the work for me in this case because they've got the little corner. You need, here we have 16 different pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 16 different pieces to get this effect so that I can do a corner like that so it has a nice edge to it and carries on, it doesn't look ugly, or a floating platform like this one here. The neat thing here, obviously, we can make that a lot wider if we want to. Well, there you go. There's your quick intro to tile sets. If you put this to use, some of the things you need to be aware of is that by default it has a delete underlying. That can be useful, like if you wanted to go ahead and drag this up on top of it and just delete the other one. If I drag it out of the way, you'll see the other one's gone. That could also be a problem if you didn't mean to, especially if you're using large tiles and chunks. I'll control right click to delete that again, and we could go ahead and put a nice textured undersection on it here. They've probably got some corners as well, I'm not sure. I didn't create this tile set. So get out there and have fun with it. Oh, the other thing I wanted to remind you is that your tile sets do need to be the same width and height as one another. You couldn't have one in here that's 128 by 64. That particular tile set needs to be the same. You can use multiple tile sets though. You could have one that's your backgrounds, another that's your open spaces. So that's about it for today. I'm going to go ahead and open up my other game, and we'll take a look at my tile set that I've been actually using. Pardon me with this load here. We're doing this as a live webcast, not a edited, uploaded one, so it's a little bit off the cuff here. We'll go into this background and see that you've got, let's see, I have one for patches, and you see this is a 96 by 96 tile set. If you're in here editing, I've got a great trick for you. The grid can really help you, but the grid needs to be set up. So we can actually set up our transparency grid to be the size that we want it to be. Grid settings. We'll make it, what was it, 96 by 96, I think. There you go. So now you can actually see the grid lines where your tiles are going to be. So if you're actually drawing them in GameMaker or setting them up, you have a guideline for that. Pretty cool, huh? My other tile set that I've been using, I'm still building on it. Let's see, this one is 32 by 32. Again, I'll edit the background. Not toggle grid settings. That's silly. 32 by 32. Turn that on. And then I can actually see what I'm working on. Isn't that clever? So all of these guys, and this is what I was talking about where you have to have enough tiles to really make all of your set. As you see here on my path tiles, I've got a vertical, horizontal, corner, 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 corner. There's another corner. There's an intersection. There's a full block. You have to make all of these. So again, it can get a little tedious if you're making them all yourself, but you could also download them if you wanted to. And here's a little set of interiors. If you go ahead into one of my rooms here, you'll see how they're put to use. This is a tile set. And it's really a great organization system. Unlike objects, that layering system also allows you to hide every other layer. So if I switch layers to layer 90,000, I can hide all the other layers. So you can see I've kept myself organized by using these little patches of grass around here, and you can see I've done exactly what I suggested. I have an invisible solid object, so you can't actually go through the tile, because the tile is actually part of the background. It's not anything you're going to interact with. Anything you interact with needs to be placed on top like that. Let me go grab an interior, and I'll show you one more where I've put it to use. This little guy here, and we have an object that triggers going to the next room, and here are a bunch of tiles. They're all layered up. Here's another set of my tiles. Here you see the background patches that I had, layered up a couple of them, and then we've got the interiors used to make these little houses. And then you've actually got the interiors of those locations as well, which are using more tiles from the other set that I have. And my tiles have got different dimensions as well. Like I said, if you wanted to do some that are 32 by 32, but you wanted others that are 16 by 16 like that one, you need to make multiple tile sets. So these are big open ones, and the other ones are smaller ones. Okay, so that's about it for me today. If you have some questions, please go ahead and leave them down below, and we will try to get back to you. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this kind of thing, check back, and I will try to keep up with more videos for your enjoyment and consumption in the future. You guys have a great day.